What's up, everybody? Who is on upset alert in SEC Week 3? Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what is happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along on today's show. We'll run through all the matchups in SEC Week 3. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege, get $20 off your first purchase. All right, we got to dive into it. We start on Saturday. Let's jump right into Saturday night. It is number 1 Georgia at number 1 Kentucky, and some news coming out of Georgia yesterday, or rather on Friday, as Georgia cornerback Daniel Harris arrested Thursday night in Athens for reckless driving, illegal windshield tint, no proof of insurance, operating a vehicle that was unregistered or not with a current license plate, and not wearing a seatbelt. Now, it was all misdemeanor charges against him. Basically, per the jail log, he was booked at 10:40 p.m., released an hour later on bonds totaling $50. Harris is in his sophomore season with the Bulldogs. He has played considerable snaps in Georgia's first 2 games as the first corner up behind starter Julian Humphrey. And again, it's just another case of Georgia. Come on, like, what is going on? Whether it's the PD there, the Athens PD, whatever it is, that the Georgia players, how does this keep happening is what the rest of the SEC continues to say when it comes to Georgia players and reckless driving charges. It is nutso. But that said, Kentucky, they're going to try to avoid going 0-2 in the SEC after losing 31-6 to South Carolina last week. Georgia's scoring defense is tied for 4th best in all of college football, with just 2 second-half field goals allowed to Clemson and Tennessee Tech. Bulldogs come into this game, Michael Williams listed as doubtful. Jordan Hall, Xavier McLeod, and Warren Brinson all listed as questionable. And the Bulldogs looking to get after a Kentucky offense that was absolutely putrid last week. First time since December 2022, they did not score a touchdown. Now, Carson Beck, he is now 15-1 as a starter. Georgia coming off a career-best 5-touchdown passing performance against Tennessee Tech. One tie here, Kentucky linebacker Jamin Dumas-Johnson was obviously transferred from Georgia last winter and was a second-team All-American selection last year. Trevor Etienne, we got to see him in his Georgia debut last week, rushing for 78 yards after transferring this offseason from Florida. The Bulldogs have a SEC record 27 consecutive regular season wins. Gerald Mincy and Jagger Burton for Kentucky, they are listed as probable and doubtful, respectively, on the availability list. Kentucky starting quarterback Brock Vandagriff, he transferred in from Georgia this offseason after backing up Stetson Bennett through 2 national title runs, and then, of course, backing up Carson Beck last year. And kind of surprised, he popped up on the injury report for Kentucky Thursday evening, and he is listed as probable to play in this one. But man, if he couldn't go, I would assume they would turn to the backup from Rutgers, who played a little bit last week in that South Carolina loss. But look, everybody's expecting Georgia to blow out Kentucky. The spread is sitting at about minus 22 Georgia. I think it's a lot of points. Remember last time Georgia went to Lexington, Kentucky kept holding them to field goals, kept getting stops. They still lost the game, but they did a pretty good job of wrangling them in there in Lexington, at least holding them out of the end zone a bunch. So maybe the Kentucky defense can put a little bit inspired and do that. I do think Georgia wins big, but if I was going spread, I might lean Kentucky plus the points, just because everybody and their brother is jumping off the Kentucky bandwagon now and expect them to get blown out. So whenever that happens, something inexplicably weird always happens, and Kentucky loses a close one against Georgia. But we'll see how it plays out. But again, I like Georgia to win by double digits, but maybe not cover the full 22. Also coming up at 11:45 a.m. Central on the SEC Network, it'll be number 24 Boston College at number 6 Mizzou, and Mizzou is preparing for their first real test of the season. The Tigers are starting to get back a little bit healthier on the injury front. Brett Norfleet, their tight end, is expected to return to the lineup this week. He did not play against Buffalo last week after a shoulder injury in the season opener. This matchup is currently a ranked showdown between the two teams. We didn't think Boston College would be ranked, but here we are. And Mizzou up to number 6 in the country, looking to keep things rolling in this matchup. Eli Drinkwitz squad, they've outscored opponents 89-0 across their first 2 games against Murray State and Buffalo. And if the Tigers can keep that dominant play going on defense, they should improve to 3-0. They won 11 games last year. They have yet to allow a point through 2 games this season. The first time for the program since 1935 they've done that. Now, Boston College, Bill O'Brien back in college football, and obviously had some great success at in the NFL. Somewhat success at Alabama as the OC there. Although Bama fans will tell you different. But look, they got some weapons on offense, particularly their quarterback, Castellanos. He can run it. He can throw it. He's got 6 touchdowns, no picks on the year. And Boston College, they entered the AP Top 25 this week for the first time since November of 2018. Now for Mizzou, Luther Burden is back healthy, presumably this week. He had an illness a week ago. Theo Wee stepped up in his stead. He had 10 catches for 149 yards. But this is the only matchup on Saturday pitted between 2 ranked teams. And that means a lot of attention is going to be on this game where Mizzou has won 18 consecutive home games, tying the school record set from 2005 through 2012. I am going to take Missouri, but man, I keep looking at the line and saying 14.5. I think Boston College keeps it closer than that. Even if Missouri wins 28-14, it's a cover for Boston College. So I'm going to take Boston College plus the points, but I'll take Mizzou to win at home. Keep an eye on that one, though. Mizzou could be on upset alert. It's a game that worries me just because of the offensive weapons that Boston College has, and I don't think Missouri's defense has really been fully tested yet. So we'll keep an eye on that one. All right, how about Texas A&M? They are heading on the road to the Swamp to play the Florida Gators, and will we see DJ Lagway? That is the big question for the Florida Gators. It sounds like Graham Mertz going to get the start for the Gators, but DJ Lagway expected to play, and a lot of fans, Florida Gator fans, want to see Lagway play heavy minutes. A&M gearing up for their first road test of the season, and it's possible the Aggies head into this matchup possibly without their starting quarterback. On Thursday, the Aggies released their SEC-mandated availability report. This is the first year the league's requiring. Connor Wegman was included as questionable for the game. So not even probable, but questionable Connor Wegman in this game. And a questionable designation means a player is uncertain to play / 50% chance to play in the upcoming game. Now, Wegman's gotten off to a rocky start so far. He's completed just 12 of 30 passes, and that lost to Notre Dame, and then was 11 of 14 against McNeese, but just 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. So if he can't go, some people were wondering maybe Jalen Henderson. Well, Marcel Reed was the quarterback to replace him in the blowout win against McNeese. So you wonder if it would be Marcel Reed and not Jalen Henderson. But we'll see what Wegman's status looks like as we get closer to kickoff in this one. But like we said, Florida having their own quarterback discussions this week on, is it going to be DJ Lagway or Graham Mertz? I do know this. Montrell Johnson, he is going to run against that A&M shaky run defense. He has been very good so far to start the year. So if I'm Florida and Billy Napier, I say, forget the quarterback. Run it. Let's go right at the interior of that Texas A&M defensive line. For the Aggies, they got Levy Moss. He's been very good, leading the Aggies to 154 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. 2 former Florida coaches and 2 former Florida starters returning to the Swamp. Defense coordinator Jay Bateman, D-line coach Sean Spencer, and then Scooby Williams and Jaden Hill going to be on the opposite sidelines at Florida Field. This is a very interesting one. It's A&M -4 on the road. I just feel like this is a must-win for Billy Napier and company. I said that week 1 against Miami. I'll say it again this week. This is one you got to have with knowing how tough the schedule is down the road. A&M, by the way, has not won a true road game in the SEC since 2021. I'm going to take the Gators at home. Give me the Gators plus the 4, and give me the Gators straight up to win this one at home in the Swamp. It's one they got to have. And if they lose this one, well, I mean, the clock's already ticking on Billy Napier. So, go ahead and start cleaning out his desk. Thanks again for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we'll continue to preview the SEC Week 3 matchups. First one of you guys' episode presented to you by friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It is the formula for winning championships. It's what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything for you to maintain your vehicle, level it up to peak performance, whether it's roof racks, superchargers, exhaust kits, LED headlights, whatever it is. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you're always going to find exactly what you're looking for with that eBay Guaranteed Fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it is easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. That is ebaymotors.com. This episode also presented to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. When you are hiring for your small business, you want to find quality candidates that are right for your role. And that's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn, it's not just another job board. They're going to help you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job websites. They're only going to LinkedIn. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours of posting. Hire professionals like a professional over on LinkedIn. Go post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Go post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, so we dive back into it, previewing SEC Week 3. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Let's get to the game where College GameDay is headed, and that is in Columbia, South Carolina. South Carolina, by the way, making some news on Friday afternoon as it was announced they will be soon under new leadership. Multiple reports out that South Carolina Athletic Director Ray Tanner intends to transition into a new role within the university. Tanner will remain in his current role while the school conducts a search to find their next athletic director. And according to reports, the search is already underway. The news was revealed at a Board of Trustees meeting on Friday. That's according to Gamecocks Central. And they reported that Tanner will become athletics director emeritus and serve in his new role until June 2028. But Tanner saying in a release, I'm humbled and honored that I've had the great fortune to be a part of this wonderful university, and that will continue for a while now. I've thought there's going to come a time for Carolina to get a new athletic director, and the president and I have had those conversations. Tanner, of course, was the baseball coach for many years, won back-to-back national championships in 2010 and 2011. And so big time movement there in South Carolina as they're going to be searching for a new athletic director. But let's get into this game as they will host LSU, first place very early in the SEC race. The Gamecocks, they're the only 1-0 team in the league after they played Kentucky. They were the only SEC teams to play last week. And so LSU, they already lost that opening week game against USC. They can't afford another early season loss if they want to make the playoffs. So key matchup to watch here, LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier against South Carolina's defensive front. Obviously, Kyle Kennard, the Georgia Tech transfer, the big freshman Dylan Stewart, they have racked up 10 sacks together through 2 games. They have been mighty, mighty impressive. But Nussmeier, he has not been sacked yet. He has thrown for more than 300 yards in both games so far, along with an SEC best 8 touchdown passes. This is LSU's first visit to Columbia since 2008. The Gamecocks have only won twice in 22 meetings with LSU in 1930 and in 1994. They've lost their past 7 in the series. Now, ESPN College GameDay is on campus at South Carolina for the first time in a decade. They announced Dawn Staley is going to be the celebrity guest picker on College GameDay. I just keep looking at this line. LSU's been sitting at about a 6.5, 7-point favorite all week on FanDuel. I'm going to take LSU minus the points. I think they go in there, and I think it's bad weather expected in the area. It's supposed to rain. And the big knock on LSU is they've not been able to run the football through 2 weeks. I think they do find a way to run the football on South Carolina. I think they throw it when they have to. And I think LSU finds a way to win on the road. Look, College GameDay is going to bring all the juice. Everything's going to be pumping. It's going to feel like, everything is going South Carolina's way. But the more and more people I start to see throughout this week starting to pick South Carolina in the upset, I started to feel like LSU is going to go in there and do what they need to do. Keep in mind, LSU is the number 16 team in the country. Yes, they're 1-1 and South Carolina's 2-0. But let's not forget, after week 1, we were looking at South Carolina sideways going, you almost lost to Old Dominion, bro. Great win last week. Credit Shane Beamer getting his guys up and ready to go. And it was a great dominant win in Lexington and Kentucky. But at the end of the day, I look at these two rosters and say LSU's got more talent on the roster. I think LSU finds a way to get it done. I'll eat my words on Monday. If South Carolina wins it, my God, then we're talking about South Carolina as a potential, team to make a run through the SEC. Maybe they don't get to Atlanta and play for an SEC title, but we're talking about a team that has real potential to maybe they have potential to go 10-2 and maybe make the playoff. Or at least you're talking about an 8-9 win season, at that point. So we'll talk about it on Monday, but I do think LSU gets it done at South Carolina. Next up, it is Alabama. They are number 4 in the country. They're going up to Wisconsin to play 2-0 Wisconsin. The Badgers seeking their first 3-0 start since 2019. If they could pull off the upset, Alabama would be the highest-ranked SEC team that any Big Ten program has ever defeated in the regular season. The Badgers also aiming for their first win over a top 5 opponent since they beat number 5 LSU at the start of the 2016 season up at Lambeau Field. Alabama, they look to improve to 16-1 in their last 17 road openers. Its only road opening loss during that stretch came at Ole Miss in 2014. Now, keep an eye on Alabama freshman wide receiver Ryan Williams. He has been outstanding through the first 2 games. Jalen Milroe, he has accounted for 9 total touchdowns in his first 2 games, and he finished 6th in last year's Heisman voting, looking to become a Heisman finalist again this year. This is Alabama's first true road game against the team from north of the Mason-Dixon line since they went up to Penn State in 2011. And this marks Alabama's first visit to Camp Randall since 1928. Alabama co-DC and DB's coach Colin Hitchler was Wisconsin's co-DC and safeties coach last year. Wisconsin 2-11 in their last 13 games against teams in the AP top 25. Now, look, if this were a few years ago when Wisconsin was really rocking and rolling, I think they, could pull off the upset. But Luke Fickell, he's trying to get that thing going there. I think it's just a little bit too early in his tenure. Can they keep it close, though? I think the rocking hostile environment, they can maybe keep it close. Look, if Alabama plays like they did the first 3 quarters against USF last week, in this one, they're going to find themselves in a close game coming into the 4th quarter. But I do think Alabama imposes their will. Obviously, getting Caden Proctor back on that offensive line, I think they dominate the run game. Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, they impose their will. They get out to an early lead, and they don't look back. I got Alabama covering the 16 up on the road to Wisconsin. It's a lot of points. I wish it was more closer to 14. Like if it was, 13.5, I'd feel really good about it. Alabama minus the 16 scares me because, what if Wisconsin gets a late touchdown and, they're losing 35-14 and, they get a garbage time touchdown to make it 35-21. Looks a little bit closer and gets them the cover. But either way, I like Alabama, and I like them to cover that big number. So we'll take the Tide. And then next up, it is number 5 Ole Miss. They are heading to 1-1 Wake Forest. This game is going to be on the CW, by the way, 5:30 Central, as Ole Miss is a 20.5-point road favorite. The Rebels beat up on Furman and Middle Tennessee in the first 2 weeks, outscoring them 128-3. And this will be the best competition they faced yet, although Wake Forest coming off a home loss to Virginia a week ago. Quarterback Jackson Dart, a Heisman hopeful. Wide receiver Trey Harris, one of the best wide receivers in the country. And they put up some good numbers. Dart set an SEC single game record by completing his first 24 passes against Middle Tennessee, along with the longest overall completion streak of 30 games going back to the opener. He has completed a whopping 80% of his passes. He has just been so good. And obviously Henry Parrish, he went off last week as running back, started very strong in his return back transfer from Miami, ran for 165 yards and 4 touchdowns. Those were career highs. And, look, on Thursday, Ole Miss confirmed that they're going to be wearing all white uniforms in this one, white jerseys, white pants, powder blue numbers. I like Ole Miss to go in there and win big at Wake Forest. Give me Ole Miss minus the 20.5. This will be, like I said, Saturday night kickoff. And I like them to go in there and take care of business against Wake Forest. So Wake Forest not slipped up against Virginia. Maybe the fans would be feeling a little bit more, oh, hey, we're undefeated. We got a chance. But I think the air went out the balloon a little bit there in that one. I think Ole Miss wins and covers that 20.5, wins big. And we're going to be talking about Ole Miss still as a top 5 team in the country coming into next week. All right, still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Well, first, I want to remind you guys, today's episode presented to you by our friends over at Factor Meals. Look, fuel up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you're always going to have time to enjoy nutritious, great-tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart that new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? 35 different meals, more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week. So you're always going to have new flavors to explore. It's not going to feel like you're eating the same thing each and every week. Go crush your wellness goals throughout this fall with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Head to factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50. Use our code LOCKEDONCollege50. Get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LOCKEDONCollege50 at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50. Get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active over there at Factor Meals. All right, we continue here on Locked On SEC, previewing the SEC Week 3 slate. And as we dive back into it, running through the rest of the games we did not discuss yet, let's talk about 1-1 Tulane going up to number 15 Oklahoma. The quarterback play has not been great yet for Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold has not been great, but look, they've had offensive line injuries. They've had wide receiver injuries. They're getting some of those wide receivers back. I expect them to open it up against this Tulane defense with John Summerall. Tulane's offense looked very good. They gave Kansas State all they could handle a week ago at home, but this is different. You're on the road. It's an afternoon game in Memorial Stadium in Norman. OU is only a 13-point favorite. I think Tulane keeps it close for a couple quarters. I think OU pulls away late. I'm going to take Oklahoma minus the 13. I think they get it done. I think Jackson Arnold looks much better this week, and hopefully fans stop calling for, can we see a change at quarterback? Can we see what Michael Hawkins could do? No, I think Jackson Arnold's the guy, and I think this is his prove it week that he proves I'm the guy. We're good. We're 3-0. Let's keep this train rolling as we count closer to our SEC opener against Tennessee. 1-1 UAB is at 1-1 Arkansas. Arkansas coming off a heartbreaking loss at Oklahoma State where they played as the much better team. Thought they should have won that game last week in overtime. UAB has not looked great. Arkansas is a 23-point home favorite. I like Arkansas to cover the 23. Taylor Green's been awesome. Jaquindon Jackson's been awesome. The Bobby Petrino hire has been great. They just got to find ways to get stops and stop making stupid mistakes with, turning the ball over on a punt return, and Jaquindon Jackson with a fumble last week. Clean it up. Arkansas gets himself right. 3:15 Central on SEC Network. Arkansas minus the 23. Into the evening, we've got 6 p.m. Central on ESPN. It is 1-1 UTSA at 2-0 Texas. Look, UTSA normally, they've been a pretty good team, pretty competitive team in the conference they play. I think they're in the American now, but they got blown out last week at Texas State, 49-10. We just saw Texas State give Arizona State all they can handle the other night. Pretty good team, but UTSA, I don't think they're up to the standard to play a close one with Texas. The Longhorns are 35-point favorites. Something tells me, though, that's just a little bit too big of a number. I feel like UTSA and Jeff Traylor, they're going to get the backdoor cover late. So I'm going to take UTSA plus the 35, but I like Texas to win somewhere 28-31 range. Quinn Ewers has been awesome. The defense has been awesome. Gibson kind of coming on a little bit with Jaden Blue in the run game. So I like Texas. Maybe this is a little bit of a letdown after the big emotional road win at Michigan a week ago, but I like Texas to win big, but not cover that 35. I think it's just a little bit too many points. At 6 o'clock Central on ESPN Plus, it is 2-0 Vanderbilt at 1-1 Georgia State, and Vandy minus 10. I had a buddy text me and said, when's the last time Vandy was, a 10-point favorite over anybody? It feels like, this is a danger territory. Why is Vandy going on the road here? You wish they were playing this one at home, but playing in Atlanta, I think Vanderbilt gets it done. I think they take care of business. I think they improved to 3-0. Diego Pavia has been great for them. The hire of Jerry Kill and the offensive guys, Tim Beck, that they brought over from New Mexico State. It's been great. I think Vandy improves to 3-0. They hit their over win total. Remember, they were only over under win total on the year for Vandy was 2.5. So they can hit that over this week with a win at Georgia State. It sets up a big road trip to Missouri next week, where we could be talking about 2 undefeateds possibly undefeated Vanderbilt at undefeated Missouri next week would be a fun storyline. So I like Vandy to cover the 10, Vandy minus 10. Vandy wins at Georgia State. Maybe something like, I don't know, 31-21. Maybe not a super high scoring game, but something in that vicinity. All right, how about 6:30 Central on ESPN2? It was 0-2 New Mexico at 1-1 Auburn, and a lot of focus this week has been on Peyton Thorne. He was god-awful last week, the 4 interceptions in their loss to Cal. Will we see Hank Brown? Do we see both quarterbacks play? It sounds like Hugh Freeze has kind of kept the door open for that. Auburn is a 27-point favorite. I don't think, it's hard to pick a number. Do they cover this number here? New Mexico is bad, though. This isn't New Mexico State. This is New Mexico. I think Auburn covers the 27, but to me, that the number's irrelevant. What's relevant here is, does Peyton Thorne play well? Does he clean it up? Does he establish himself back as a starter? Or does Hank Brown get a chance to show what he can do? Does he look good? And suddenly Auburn makes a quarterback change 3 weeks into the season. That is going to be the big storyline to watch in this one. Again, I'll take Auburn minus the points, but to me, I got to see better production out of the quarterback spot. The other 2 night games, 6:30 Central on ESPNU. It's 2-0 Toledo at 1-1 Mississippi State. Mississippi State, a 10.5-point home favorite against Toledo. You would think they'd be a heavier favorite. Toledo, their 2 wins are against Duquesne and UMass, so not exactly like they played some world beaters. Mississippi State played a much better competitive second half last week on the road at Arizona State. Problem was they stunk up the joint in the first half, and it was just too much to overcome. But I'll take Mississippi State at home. Blake Shapen and company. He's thrown for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think Mississippi State, the offense looks good at home. I think they win by more than the 10.5 at home against Toledo. And then 6:45 on SEC Network. It's 0-2 Kent State against number 7 Tennessee. The old saying, can't read, can't write, can't state. I think Tennessee wins. They win big, but that number is 49. Tennessee minus 49. The number's too big for me. I'm going to take Tennessee to win, but by like 45. Like, does Tennessee win this one, 50-7, something like that? I don't think they cover the 49. Give me Kent State plus the 49. But look, if they win, 63-0, more power to Josh Heupel and Nico Iamaleava and company, and the hype train will definitely continue rolling for top 7 Tennessee moving into their road trip to Oklahoma. That is going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. Thank you guys so much for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. Keep coming back and checking us out. We'll be back on Monday. Thank you guys for checking us out. Have a great weekend. Enjoy all the action of SEC Week 3. I'm Chris Gordy. We'll talk to you guys on Monday right here on Locked On SEC.